Hi, everyone. My name is Peyton West. I'm the assistant winemaker for Isabel Meunier Consulting and Lavinia Wines. And I'm here today with Mark Wahle, owner and winemaker of Mark Wahle Vineyard and Winery, or cellars, I should say. And today we're going to discuss the 2014 Holmes Hill Pinot Noir that is in your spring release wine club for the diverse portfolio or diverse shipment. So, hi, Mark. How are you?
Good, thanks. Good to be with you.
Good. Before we get started and talk about the wine, I'd just like to address to everyone, I don't know if everyone knows this or not, but Mark's full-time job, his day job, is actually a doctor at a hospital, at a ER. So you're going through a pretty crazy time right now. And how are things going at the hospital?
Oh, just finished a stretch of shifts there. It's been pretty busy, getting busier, and we've learned an awful lot about the coronavirus in the past few weeks. And so it's just real thankful to all my colleagues that are helping out and that we're this rapidly evolving situation. And it's just the amount of teamwork is really great. And would also like to thank the public for adhering to the social distancing and just making it a lot more doable for us. Just kind of helping to keep the volumes manageable, and it's really been helpful.
Well, we thank you. I mean, you have the hardest job. You're taking care of multiple things at all times. And the least that we can do is stay home and drink the wine that you make and wait for it all to pass. So you're in a unique situation. Not only are you're helping everyone at a hospital, but you're also helping them at home by making wine. So I think you're the only winemaker we've talked to that can have both those hats on at the same time. So cheers to you on that, my friend.
Fortunately, the nurses keep on asking for more wine to be supplied to the hospital, so I'm happy to oblige.
that's
for
awesome.
After shifts.
Yeah. Well, maybe you could make a cuvee this next year and call it the COVID cuvee or appreciation cuvee or something. I'd be willing to donate anything I could to help that. That could be kind of fun. So before we get into the wine, or as we get into the wine, I want to talk just briefly about kind of your history and how you got started in making wine. I know that you have a property on Yamhill Carlton, which is Mark Wahle Vineyards or Wahle Vineyards, and you grew up there. Is that correct?
Yeah, I grew up in Yamhill and helped my folks start a vineyard there back in 1974. And it was some cuttings and young plants that we got from Charles Corey over by Gales Creek area at the time. He had a little nursery and one of the first to propagate vines in Oregon. And we planted a pomard and some other clones back then in Yamhill and just tried to sort it out. And we would meet up with different other early growers at Grape Day conferences every so often.
What made you want to make wine? What made you want to kind of take that leap? Was it growing up around it? Was there something else that entertained that idea? What was the kind of the catalyst for that?
I always found it relaxing to be involved with the vineyard in the early days in Yamhill. And while I love medicine, it was nice to be able to kind of have that change of pace periodically, to change from medicine for being there for a few days to change to working in the vineyard. And up to that point hadn't really translated the grape growing into the winemaking product we'd always sold to other wineries. And so I always wanted to be able to do both. And so I ended up coming back during training time and ended up coming back and doing a first crush with Brian and Jill O'Donnell at Belle Pont in 98.
Okay. Very nice. And then you ended up going to the studio in what year?
2006 was the first year. And
okay.
Yeah, interestingly, I had met Eric Homaker while studying wine down at UC Davis. And years later, we reconnected in Oregon, and he knew that I was wanting to get re-engaged with winemaking and suggested that the studio might be the right place to do that.
Awesome. That's great. Well, let's go ahead and dive into the wine a little bit and give it a try. So again, this is the 2014 Holmes Hill Pinot Noir, Willamette Valley. So one of the things that that struck me the most about this wine is aromatically, it's just this burst of earth and dusty dried fruits with like just kind of this raspberry characteristic in the back. And there's a herbaceous quality to it aromatically, not in an underripe way, but just in kind of a more perfume aromatic way. That's really interesting. So you really get kind of like the floor of the vineyard to me in this aromatically, and there's a nice underlying amount of fruit, which to me also kind of signifies it's a 2014, so it's got 6 years. So those kind of age-worthy characteristics that really only happen from a well-established site start to pop out during these times of 6 years in bottle, especially for Pinot. So I really, really, really like it aromatically. What do you think?
Yeah, this was one of the kind of a stretch of warm seasons for our site, which still ends up being cooler than our Yamhill vineyard. This is the Holmes Hill vineyard, and it a little farther south by below Amity, and we have a little bit more volcanic soils there. And this wine has a kind of a Pomard base as well as some 115 and 777 in there, and generally early in its youth, it ends up being a little bit more brambly blackberry, sometimes a little pomegranate. I think kind of dried raspberry kind of is a nice descriptor. And with this many years of age on it, it's got I think a little bit of herbal character as well as maybe some cola notes that are kind of unique for this wine that is not always seen in the cooler seasons.
I agree. And one thing that I think, 2014 being a warmer year, you're always at risk with hotter years of trying to balance out your acidity. And for everyone to remember that, having an acid backbone of your wine really, really helps ageability. And I think that in hotter years, when you don't have as much acid, picking decisions are really important. And it's very clear that you know your vineyards really well. And the pick decision had to have been great for this because there's still a lot of acidity on the wine. Like, it's very agile, it's very fresh. It hasn't lost that. And so it's structured really nicely. Some 2014s can fall out of balance, I feel, pretty quickly just because they don't have the acidity to back it up. And I don't find that in this wine. I think it's very linear. It has a great skeleton to it that can still go for several more years. So yeah, it's really nice. And it's very it's very agile. It's a great ruby red pomegranate, I think, is a great descriptor of the wine. It's really, really, really lovely. You did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah.
So one of the things that we were talking about before is you hiked the Pacific Crest Trail.
Yeah, so it was always a dream. I was able to do that in 2015, and ended up leaving May 11th and went from the border of with Mexico, and then it's just a gorgeous hike, and it was just so many national parks along the way that I've always wanted to go visit individually, but it was just an amazing chance to kind of see them just one after another, and on a continuous basis like that was really, really special. And one of the things I didn't quite understand about the Pacific Crest Trail was just how much you're out there by yourself a lot, but at the same time, every day you are running across a few other hikers and from around the world, and just hearing their stories of why they're out there, and how they got to that point. It's just truly amazing, and it's just some of the bonds you make are long term. And it was also real special to have my daughter come with me for part of the Oregon section.
Oh, nice.
It's really nice. But I eventually finished up on the Canadian border September 9th, and as you can imagine, it takes a little while to kind of readjust to reality after coming off the trail, and I've lost a lot of weight and just trying to readjust. But then I was fortunate to get off in time, though, to get back and start getting ready for picking plans and getting things ready in the winery, and to try to transition back to real life. And so it was really a special opportunity.
Yeah, I bet. And I bet you learned a lot about yourself through that experience, I would imagine.
Yeah, it really tests your there's just so many skills involved with it. I think, I used to think I was a reasonably good backpacker, but I realized after that I didn't my backpacking skills were very minimal, and just thinking about being out for that many days and going that many miles per day just was something that it pulls a lot out of you. But
Yeah,
you see your other folks out there doing it as well, and you may not see some of the people you meet out there for another couple of weeks, but then run into them in another town, and it's just a nice. It's kind of there's teamwork involved, even though it's over such a long distance.
of
And
course. Yeah. So speaking of being alone for some time during your hike, for those of you who don't know, Mark sorts his fruit by himself on the sorting line, generally at a later time in the day, anywhere probably between, depending on the schedule, the busy schedule of the studio, between 10 p.m. to 12 p.m. at night. And it's just you up there sorting your fruit. And to give people a perspective on that, generally you have 2 to 3 people on the line, or 4, depending on how picky the winemaker is. And you're there for 3 or 4 hours sorting through however much fruit you have. And most of us have a picking crew that also goes out and picks all the fruit for us, and it's delivered to us. You are about as wholesome as this whole thing could possibly be, and tangling it all around yourself. You own your own properties. You source from your own properties. You pick the fruit in the vineyard with 2 or 3 other people. I'm assuming pretty close, either friends or relatives of some kind. You pick the fruit yourselves in the morning. And I know you make a fair amount of wine, so that's a fair amount of tonnage, which means you're out there for a while. Load up your truck that you rent. You drive the fruit all the way to the winery, and then you sort the fruit yourself, and then you make it. So, I mean, you kind of have this whole inclusive process wrapped around Mark Wahle. And I'm curious as to, what do you think you've learned, and what is the benefit so far to your winemaking, encapsulating all that together into one package?
yeah, I think it's just helpful for me just to, since I spend a lot of time out in the growing season in the vineyard, and kind of getting to know the fruit fairly well early on. I just kind of have spent a lot of time sorting the fruit, sometimes before picking, just trying to do a little pre-picking, and then being involved in the picking with a husband and wife team that has helped me out for a lot of years, and they seem to really be bonded to working on the property. That we kind of have a good feel together on what's going to be, fruit to be included in the wine, and what should be dropped. And so on those days, and in years where conditions are favorable, I kind of already know, I've already seen the fruit in the past couple of days, what we're picking. And so it's not too much extra work for me just to kind of sort it on my own, because I've already kind of seen it at some point during the day.
Right.
And just to kind of double check and get some leaves out of there, and a few things that we missed. But on those days, it doesn't help that much to have an extra crew helping me on the line, particularly because we pick our own fruit, I end up showing up later in the day, and it's kind of closer to wrap up time in the winery. And so if I don't need to pull extra help, it's nice to be able to have folks who work on cleaning up in the winery while I'm doing that. There's certainly other years, though, where weather's not so favorable, where the plan to kind of sort before and during picking doesn't work, and I need that extra help. But
Of course.
past few years have been kinder.
Do you feel like there's somewhat of a Zen aspect to it, though, like a meditation effect? Because I see you up there and you're sorting, and you're just like constantly moving, which you have to be if you're the only one up there. But you also look happy. Like you don't look frustrated. You're not like, here I am again, just me for another few hours, and it's late. I want to go home. I'm tired. Like, it doesn't seem that way at all. You seem genuinely zoned into it all and happy and just kind of relaxed. Like, is there somewhat of a therapeutic thing to it for you?
I think that's a good way to put it, because I mean, I think sometimes it's going to be right after having some somewhat stressful days in the emergency department. And so there's something about getting to the point of sorting the fruit after having been in the vineyard the whole day, perhaps delivering some grapes to other wineries, finally getting our chance to work with our own fruit, that it does kind of like cap off not only the season, but the day in a nice way. And so it doesn't, and the hours aren't really strange to me, because I'm used to the strange hours from working at the hospital.
Right.
And so it's kind of actually a normal time for me. And so it is therapeutic. You're right.
You are a man of many talents. And in a time like this where in your field is extremely important and valuable to us, I think I speak on behalf of all the wine club members and all of us for sure at the studio that we have nothing but respect, admiration, and appreciation for what you do in your field, as well as your winemaking. And thank you so much for taking some time to talk about your wine today with me during a couple of your days off. And I hope that the rest of your days off are filled with drinking the wine and you don't have to talk about it.
Thanks. Real appreciate it today. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Cheers, Mark. Thank you so much.
Cheers.